Stacking Benjamins is not for everyone. Side effects may include euphoria, increased ability to meet your goals, and aggression from people wondering, quote, what the hell your secret is. Stacking Benjamins may be habit-forming, especially if you stick around for the entire episode. Wink, wink. Please check with your doctor to see if Stacking Benjamins is right for you.
Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and today we're partying like it's our 1,499th episode because, wait, it is? Already? And I'm in sweatpants? Oh man, this is awkward. But the show must go on, and we're sharing your success stories and stories from the past, present, and future of this fine... How are we going to do that? We talk about the future. Anyway, now two guys who are the grandma and grandpa of this here podcast. I'll let you decide who's who. It's Joe and O-J-J-J-G.
Everybody, welcome to the gigantic basement celebration for episode 1499.
We about to party like it's 1499.
You know what? Starting on episode 1500, we're going to get professional again, but for one day. Oh, did I say the word again?
Again?
Where did that come from? I have no idea.
Well, a girl can dream, Joe.
Welcome. Everybody sit back, relax. We are going to go through kind of a little bit of the making of the show for the new stackers. We've got some great stacker call-ins. We're going to talk about some of your success stories. We'll talk about some of our favorite guests, favorite moments, and then what's coming up in the future. We're going to organize this into 3 parts and hopefully give you guys a lot of takeaways. And maybe you can learn, OG, from our mistakes. Maybe that's the deal. People learn from our mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, it's... the list is long, so the learnings today should also be very robust.
Our first mistake was making this podcast free, but because we did, please hang in there for just a second as we make sure that we're able to keep it free. All right, we are diving into your success stories in the show, so let's do this. So I think for people who haven't heard the origin story of the show, we should chat for just a moment about what a fluke this show is. We had researcher Brian Class on recently talking about flukes, and OG, I would say this whole show has been a fluke.
Comedy of errors?
Yes.
Well, Joe, you see, it came to me in a fever dream one day in 2014. May have been involving some peyote and possibly some Pepto-Bismol, but that's really the origin of the show.
That's how Doug started. The way OG and I started, a little different than that. We were on the radio together, OG.
Yes. Back in the glory days of just radio. There wasn't even TV or anything. And that's... people would gather around on Sunday nights.
There's like people at microphones doing sound effects
Saturday
of horse
morning.
clip-clops.
Yeah.
Now, see here, see?
People wonder why I know so much about Jack Benny. There it is. That's why. The type of radio show that you and I were on was one of those, if you tune into AM radio on a Saturday morning, and for those people that, even if you don't know radio, I don't think you have to know that these companies buy radio time.
Yeah.
And so the company we both work for bought radio time. And because I was the media guy, they're like, Joe, will you host this radio show? And I said, yeah, sure. That'll be fun. And it was fun for maybe the first 8 or 9 months.
I don't even know how long did you do it for?
Did it for about 2.5 years, 2.5 years. But after that, when you realize that nobody's listening, we would always open up the line for callers. And literally nobody would call in. And then once in a while, we would have our spouses call and pretend they're people. We'd have friends call, pretend they're people
so early in the
in.
morning, like 7:30 or something on a Saturday.
It was 8 a.m. Yeah, 8 a.m.
It's too early for any real work.
But I remember that you and I knew each other already, but not that well. We knew of each other. but you lived close to the radio station. And the very first time you came on, somehow we hit it off. Like OG and I together were having more fun than, of course, all you had to do is beat a bunch of other financial. The average comedy you can get out of a financial planner ain't that big.
Yeah.
And so we had this radio show where every 5 or 6 minutes we had to go to a break. So I'd wiggle my finger around and we'd stop talking and then pick it up again. I didn't remember what we talked about. Do you remember what we talked about, OG?
I have no recollection of any of it, except the one time that you said, I'm going to be late. The key to the station is under the mat. The guy should already be in there. Just start it. I was like, how do you start a radio show? You're like, I don't know. It doesn't matter because no one's going to be listening anyway.
I had a little honesty by that point.
Can I take you guys back to actual footage of a commercial you had me do then? I have it.
Really?
I have the actual commercial you had me do. You must have had a sponsor.
Wait,
you're looking at me like, is this real or are you about to mess with us? This is real.
No,
you want to hear it?
Yes.
Here we go.
Summer is approaching. Energy costs are skyrocketing. Sunny windows make air conditioners run 2 to 3 times harder. Lower your energy bill by adding a window treatment that will block solar heat and also protect your fine furnishings, art, and flooring by blocking out harmful UV rays. Ideal Window Treatments has a sale on blinds and draperies, including free installation. Act fast. The sale ends April 30th. Schedule your appointment today by calling Ideal Window Treatments at 248-891-1792. That's 248-891-1792. Or online at idealwindowtreatments.com.
Doug, now I got to go bill them for another commercial.
Oh, yeah, I know it.
All these years later.
But I remember you called me. You're like, dude, you're not going to believe this. We have a sponsor.
Wow. That is fabulous. But those were the early days. And then OG, you and I started a blog together. We called it the Free Financial Advisor because the domain was free, available. I wanted to start blogging. And you said, we got to go after a search engine optimization.
SEO.
And then we're like, we don't believe in free financial advice. Don't get me wrong. We still don't. We believe in people like, what? This is free. Yes, it is. But what you hear us talk about all the time is you need to surround yourself with smart people. And we try to help you do that and take your goals seriously enough that you're going to make sure that you get educated. And when did we decide to start a podcast?
About 1,500-ish episodes ago, give or take.
No, it was more than that.
Plus or minus?
No, it was more than that. It was probably like 1,600 episodes. Yeah, because you guys toiled and stubbed your toe on Two Guys and Your Money and Free Financial Advisor.
We started off with a show we call Worst of the Free Financial Advisor. And frankly, OG, we talked about this for a year. And if there's any lesson here early on in the show, it's when you have an idea, just go do it. Go do it.
Yeah.
Because
we would spend more time talking about the stuff that we were going to write about. And instead of actually just, hitting record.
Doing it.
Just hit record.
I remember exactly where I was when you rained all over my parade, Joe.
Rained all over your parade?
Oh, yeah. Because you and I had been talking about doing a podcast. Should we do a movie review podcast? What can we talk about? Because we had great conversations as well. And I remember I was out for a walk. I'm on my headphones. I'm talking to you. And you're like, yeah, remember we talked about doing a podcast? I'm like, yeah. And I thought you were building me up to be like, yeah, let's go do the movie podcast. Nope. My buddy Josh and I, this guy, you don't know him, but I work with him. My buddy Josh and I, we're going to do this financial. I'm like, all right, well, see ya. In my mind, I broke up with you that moment.
And yet he's still here. And we found a way to turn into a movie review podcast as well.
Yeah, see, there you go.
And a travel blog.
Part of the travel vlog.
If you want to do something, don't get started. I've been preparing for an interview with Professor Scott Galloway, who you're going to hear in a couple of weeks. And one thing that I'm hoping he talks about was the fact that he didn't even consider himself a writer. And then just every Thursday, he decided to start writing. From that, he realized he liked it. from putting it out there, he realized people wanted to read it. After people wanted to read it, he ends up getting all these opportunities. And it was just because he started, not because he thought about it. Because how many people, OG, have you talked to that said, oh, I got a great idea for a podcast? Mm-hmm. You hear all the time, go do it. Go get started.
That's one of the things that I've appreciated about you guys over the years is instead of working forever, I know you just kind of told the story to the contrary, but working forever to try to come out of the gates perfect, you're like, we're just going to do it. And we know it's going to suck at first. We're going to try this new thing, whether it's the whole new show or some element of the show or a format. But in the early days, there was a big willingness to fail. And that always impressed me.
Our first show was called The Worst of the Free Financial Advisor for that reason, Doug.
Totally. Giving yourself permission to suck.
We knew it was going to be horrible. We also knew that was not the name, but we knew we wanted to get started. So we decided it was like preseason baseball. It was going to be 13 episodes long, an unlucky number, because we figured that 13 episodes would be enough time to figure out what was going on. And I'd say about episode 7 or 8, we're like, okay, we know where we're going with this. And then we made the decision to make it Two Guys and Your Money. Most generic name in history.
Easy to brand, as they say.
Two
random guys.
Co-brand with 2 men in a truck.
And money. Exactly.
Black and white logo.
Yes, we did. We had a very nice, but a little clip arty logo. And I don't know, we got to like episode 50, 55 when we realized that it wasn't where we wanted to go, and we rebranded. And by the way, that's another lesson. Don't be afraid to pivot. Right? If it's not going exactly the way you want to go. How many times have we heard people going, I'm in this career and I don't like it?
Yeah.
Pivot. Speaking of that, we're going to pivot from time to time here from discussions with our stackers and about their success stories as we round 1,500 episodes. Here's Christine. Hey, Christine.
Hey, Joe, OG, and Doug. This is Christine from Seattle. I've learned so much since I started listening to your podcast a couple of years ago. Most importantly, I invest each month and have set up automatic investing into my Roth IRA so that I max it out each year instead of just investing when I happen to think about it. I've set up a financial plan and timelined out my goals and use that to inform my financial decisions. And it's inspired me to learn a lot more about personal finance in general. I've started a blog where I talk about what I've learned. I opened a custodial brokerage account for my nephew. And I sometimes even talk to my friends and family and offer advice when they have questions. So I've learned so much, and I'm so grateful for the podcast.
Christine, you are amazing. And Christine, OG, just went out and got started.
Just like we just got done talking about, right? Just go do something.
It's so great.
The power of compounding in education and in business and obviously in investing all kind of work the same. I mean, it's amazing how much $50 and a 529 for 20 years will bring you. It just doesn't seem like a lot, but it really turns into a boatload of cash.
I'm always blown away by how difficult all these things seem like between your ears when you first get started, and about, I can't open up a Roth, like how, there's gonna be all this paperwork. There's going to be all this.
Yeah. And
then you actually go do it and it's not nearly as hard as you thought. And if you give yourself permission to maybe mess it up a little bit, you find out, OG, that 99% of the stuff isn't going to kill you. And I think Christine learned exactly that.
Yeah. And started spreading the good news. So.
Yeah.
Not only that, I mean, it is usually 9.5 times out of 10, it is usually way easier than your fear, uncertainty, and doubt is telling you it's going to be. But even in that half of a time when it's a little challenging, you just have to remind yourself, let's say it takes you 2 hours. Well, and you're going to make 20 grand off of it in 5 years because of the, interest or whatever. It's pretty good ROI on an effort. So it's usually a pretty small amount of effort for a great return over a long period of time. So, do it.
I also love that, Christine, you felt inspired to blog about it yourself. People ask us, OG, that question all the time about should I start? It just seems so crowded. Nobody's you. And I think that's something we learned early on. Remember, we started writing stories at first about Roth IRAs and about insurance. Then we realized nobody wanted to read those. People wanted to read about how we F stuff up. People wanted to hear our story, our very personal story of what was going through our head when we were doing this. And nobody can be us, and nobody can be Christine. And man, her bringing that story out. We need so many more Christines to tell their story. And I'm very proud of the fact that there's several podcasts out there where the podcasters told us, Jen Smith says this publicly, our friend at Frugal Friends, that she started Frugal Friends because she was inspired by Stacking Benjamins. And I love that. I want to talk about one more thing people are wondering about, like our roundtable episodes. This is a Roundtable Friday. We don't have the roundtable here. It's just the three of us. We kick those morons to the curb. The furthest things from losers, though, are Len Penzo and Paula Pant. And first of all, what's funny is that Paula, of course, with her work on, with the Netflix stuff that she's done and many of the appearances that she's made, Paula's star definitely is shining now. But we started this episode, Len Penzo was the shining star in our little section of the world.
I remember where I was when you called me. I was on my way home from work. I'm in the car. It was kind of a rainy spring, 6 o'clock, dreary. And you're like, dude, you're never going to believe who I just got. Who'd you get, Joe? Warren Buffett? Who'd you get? Dude, I got Len Penzo. Okay. Dude, he is such a big deal. You have no idea how big his blog is. You were so excited when you got Len.
I was so excited. And the way that happened was I didn't know Len, but I knew a guy who knew Len. And I said, we should have a roundtable discussion. By the way, we set this show up because it was based on podcasts that we liked and some of the things. And I liked roundtable discussions. I also liked shows that had segments. So I didn't have to fast forward to the whole next episode. I could just go 5 or 10 minutes if I didn't like a topic they were talking about. I've got a little bit of ADD. So if we could have a show that was like that was a little bit faster, a little bit more fun, that would spur me along to continue to learn stuff without maybe thinking that I was learning anything. I believe in the science of play. So I wanted to create that. And there was a guy named Dr. Dean. Dean is now still a state senator in Georgia. And left our show. But Dr. Dean had the Dr. Dean blog. And he told me one day, he goes, I think I can get us Len Penzo. I'm like, Len Penzo, the dude that won the Plutus for best blog like this year and last year? He goes, yeah, he's a friend of mine. I think we can get him. I'm like, I don't think you can. And it was maybe 15 minutes later. Len said he's on our show. And then we had another person that was leaving, Carrie Smith Nicholson, who still has a great accounting blog and practice and is still in our community. But she realized that podcasting was taking a lot more time than she thought it was going to. It is very surprising, I think, to people how much time goes in behind the scenes today. We got out of we had an hour and a half meeting earlier about this show. And we had an hour meeting about stacking deeds earlier in the day. Just the number of meetings that we have to make this thing go is pretty amazing. But what's really cool is when Carrie left, Len said, I know Paula Pant, who's like the new hot rising star. I'm like, you know Paula Pant? He goes, yeah, I think we can get Paula. I'm like, well, I don't know Paula. He's like, no, but I know Paula, which by the way, proves something. Both of these stories prove, because then 10 minutes later, because Len was on the show, Paula said, yeah, I'll be on the show. And both of these wonderful people have been with us most of the ride that we've had this podcast. But I'll tell you, people are like, I want to know more. I want to know more about the subject. Know more about the subject matter, OG, is important. But who and networking, so important. And when I was younger, by the way, I did not want to network. I wanted just to know more about the topic. No, I'll know about it on my merits. People will come find me. Nope. People want to hire people they like. They want to work with people they know.
That's probably the biggest piece out of this, section that you're talking about is relationship building and how all of those other people are connected. A lot of times, especially early on in your maybe work career or something like that, sometimes you have a little bit of an attitude of like, I'm going to burn the boats, right? Like screw those losers, I'm out of here. And the reality is that generally speaking, whatever industry you're in, and especially the more specialized you get with your industry, the more likely it is that other people know people who know you or know of you. and that we all have hobbies, and it's interesting to see how many different things intersect, not just work, but I play golf with somebody who knows a whole bunch about the after school activity that I do. And it's like this weird kind of connection of, wow, if I would have totally put my foot in my mouth the first time that I met this one guy who's completely unrelated to everything, how many dominoes that might have had. And I think it's, it's a cautionary tale on one side, but also, it's another way to look at it in terms of, you don't have to necessarily worry about trying to get to being the person that knows everything, like you said, because if you're approaching it with a little bit of humility, there's a good chance that other people want to help as well. And whether it's money related or other things, there is some truth to the phrase, you don't get what you don't ask for. Right. And I was thinking about this in the context of kids. As my boys get older, they've started to lose their ability to kind of shed the no. And my daughter, who's 8 or almost 8, Caroline, she doesn't have that yet. Like when you're like, come on, you can't have cookies for breakfast. She'll be like, but I really like cookies. Like, she's just like, boom, I'm just going to keep asking for what I want until either I know I'm going to get a no or that person acquiesces, right? Can I go over to my friend's house and play? I don't think it's a good time. Okay, well, what if I go over right now and I will ask if it's a good time? And if it's not, you know what I mean? Like, they always, they're kids, right? And we look at that and we think that's endearing. And then as an adult, you go, your boss says, oh, you can't have this promotion, or you can't be on this assignment, or, whatever. And you go, oh, okay. And I think it's also a good lesson of, like, just ask for what you want, and probably those things, that network around you, if you've built it, will help support it.
And I will give this caveat. It doesn't mean you're going to get the job.
No, of course not.
But I'll tell you, if you're the person who is excellent, nobody knows you, versus the person who's very, very good and everybody knows you, people also want to work with a known commodity. And and here's the thing. A lot of the time, if they're bringing you into a situation where they have to also interface with other people, the biggest thing the average person's worried about isn't that you're going to be brilliant. They want to make sure that you don't suck. And even if you know the subject matter phenomenally well, they don't know that you're not going to randomly blow up in a meeting, or you're not going to have this, cray-cray discussion about UFOs or whatever it might be. Like, they don't know you. But I know this person I can bring into a meeting, and at the very least, they're going to preserve my reputation. Like, people don't think about you. They think about themselves. They think about what's going on in their backyard. And if they know you, they're likely to do it. But don't think you can't know anything. Like, you've got to be able to show up. And then I think you're definitely going places.
And also, I would just add, be also the person that you want other people to be for you. So if you want to have a network of other people, then also consider being that level of support for other people as well, right? If you're always thinking about connecting, or always thinking about solving problems for other people, there's a better chance that that's the circle that you're in, so to speak.
Let's hear another success story. This one comes to us from stacker Derek. And after we hear about Derek's incredible awesomeness, we're going to talk about lately on the podcast and kind of the last couple of years.
Hey, Joe, OG, and Doug. I was reading through this stacker thing, and it said something about a free prize if I called in and listened to some presentation about a basement timeshare. In some seriousness, I've been listening to the Stacking Benjamins podcast for about 8 or 9 years at this point, and it feels like we are neighbors, as so much has changed over the years, except the hogging of all the street parking with all those guests you always have over. I can honestly say I've learned so much from listening. It sparked an interest in finance that has grown over the years. I was completely without a clue prior to the SB podcast. You guys are the best, and it's because of you I now understand retirement accounts, insurance, money in general, and how poorly the guests are treated when they show up. I really don't know where I would be without you. I even remember OG calling people during COVID just to talk about anything. Thank you for 1,500, and here's to another 1,500 if Doug can survive that long without pay. On a more serious note, I am waiting for Joe to relay my admiration for Len Penzo to Len Penzo himself. He is a pillar of the bunker and a shiny gold bar reflecting light through the darkness. See ya.
Derek, that's why I wanted to talk about what a badass Lampenzo was before you call, because he is just an amazing, amazing man. Paula Pant, an amazing woman, and we're so happy that they're with us. As more lately, Doc G from Earn and Invest joined the team about 3 years ago, and we're so happy to collaborate with him. And lately, Crystal Hammond as well has been fantastic.
Yeah, I feel like we should talk more about the team behind the show, Joe.
Well, let's do that, because that is the present. So, Doug, where are we going to start there?
Can you, man, I don't know. You don't want to pick somebody first, because then they're going to think, well, why didn't they pick me first? But so I'm going to say Tina, Karen, Kevin.
Well, let's do this. Let's talk about how the show gets made then, the present way the show gets made, because that'll start off. So we start about 5 weeks out. And at the 5-week mark, Karen Repine, our producer, who you heard on the April Fool's episode, who is awesome with Tina Eichenberg, Karen and I have a meeting, the two of us, and we set the tone for the show for that week. And what we tried to do is, if we did something on Monday, we're going to do something totally different on Wednesday. If we did something on Wednesday, we're going to do something totally different on Friday. And by the way, from Friday to Friday to Friday, where we often have guests on the round table, if we talk about something that is for one set of stackers, the next Friday, we're going to talk about something different. So we're not playing the checkbox corporate diversity game. We're trying to be a podcast that helps you learn about a lot of different topics and surprises you inside a format that's comfortable. So we get about 70 pitches a week. I know Karen said this back on April 1st, but we get 70 pitches a week.
It's amazing.
For the show. And we have one slot now that we recently went to just one mentor a week. The roundtable episode's usually somebody from the community that we've curated. And even from those 70, we're often not picking from them. We go out and we get people. We got the CEO of Cirque du Soleil. We got the CEO of United Airlines. A lot of the people that we get are not one of those people. But we set the tone, and then we have a meeting, Doug, where we talk about, this is our guest, this is who we got, and that involves you. You're in that meeting.
Yep.
As is Lisa Curry, professional comedian. Lisa Curry is with us. She writes a bunch of the show. Doc G from Earn and Invest is there. Kate Yunkin, who does our Instagram, and the reason she's in on our Instagram lives, and she often does recordings for us, because that's why she's in there, is to convey that message. And then, of course, Karen Repine, the producer.
One of the things that we've tried, and I say we in a very egotistical way, mostly you, but and OG, is we make sure there's a lot of different perspectives in the room when we're having those discussions, to make sure that when we're picking topics or we're choosing the way we say things in the scripted parts of the show, that we are not just being who we are, right? The three guys,
3 middle-aged dudes.
Yeah, we're not being those 3 middle-aged dudes on the mic. So I think it's important that we have chosen who we've chosen to be part of that planning meeting.
It's more like 2 middle-aged guys and like one younger, significantly more attractive young man. I mean, that's how I kind of perceive it, but 2 different generations even. I mean, it's like baby boomers and
I'll leave that alone. Lisa takes the show then, and a week later we do a table read where Doug reads his parts, and we talk about the beats of the show, what we're trying to do. It's all laid out on a program that we use in front of us. So we all go in knowing what's going on with the show, except there's one human being in our organization who has no idea what's going on in a show before he shows up at the mic, and it's Mr. OG. And this, by the way, was something that really bothered me when we first started the show. I was like, no, dude, you got to prepare. And OG said the most bull thing I've ever heard of it. He's like, no, I'm worse when I prepare. Oh, you're right. Yeah, right. You're worse when you prepare. He's like, no, I really am. But being the nice human being that he was, OG, you decided to come in. You took it seriously and you prepared.
For 4 or 5 whole days even.
No, it was actually 5 or 6 weeks you prepared. And by the end of that, I realized, Doug, that this human being truly is way better. Like, somebody can fake it for a few days where they're showing up and on purpose, like, no, I don't want to prepare, so I'm just going to show up and suck. But he would show up, he'd be completely prepared, and he'd be wooden, and he'd have all the stats down. He'd be like a script. and it was horrible radio.
Woodener.
more Woodener. And it was incredible. And the way that he can just spew data, and then I think it's 43%, and then we'll hit pause so we can go check the number. And he's like, I'm sorry, it was 44%. Oh, just amazing.
It's annoying.
Can use data. In fact, it was funny when we first went to YouTube. We played a clip from the show where OG was doing that. He goes, I think the number was da 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 da. And he gets ripped on the YouTube video. They're like, oh, you think when he makes a YouTube video? And I went on the comments and went, this isn't a YouTube video. This is a clip from our podcast where we're in the middle of a much bigger discussion. And he's doing this without any data in front of him.
Wait, hold on a second. I got ripped on YouTube somewhere.
Do people rip people on YouTube?
The nerve.
Right. What do they think this is? Reddit?
How dare they?
So we
send him a refund. You know what? Just send that guy a refund. No harm, no foul.
We had to change our YouTube approach because YouTubers want something different. Now our YouTube actually has changed partly because of that. We show up all prepared and then we surprise OG, which sometimes is a lot of fun because we'll create the episode to screw with OG.
At least the open.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
I appreciate it. But, obviously you say you don't prepare and that sort of thing, but but this is all I do every day. You know what I mean? Like talk to people about money, either in person or, in this format, every day for, my entire adult life. So, I might not remember what I had for dinner yesterday, but I can remember odd things about, experiences and behavioral type situations. And most of the time when it comes down to money, it has nothing to do with your actual knowledge of the information. I don't know whose quote this is, but it's fantastic. And the quote is, if information was all that was required, we'd all have 6-pack abs and be millionaires, because we all know what to do. We all know how to eat healthy and, all that sort of stuff when it comes to fitness and money, but it's not what we do. So it's balancing out, and just the experiences of having conversations with thousands and thousands of people around how to balance out the reality of life, right? Nobody gets into credit card debt because they wake up one day and go, what would be great today? I'm going to totally jack up my financial life for the next 15 years. Yeah. It's going to be a train wreck. I'm going to really struggle. And that's you hear some people on the radio and TV, YouTube, that's their attitude towards people who are struggling with money. It's like, well, you're just stupid. Yeah, it's a stupid decision. It's like, all right, man, you've had credit card debt. I've had credit card debt. Doug's had credit card debt. We didn't purposefully wake up one day and just be like, this is a great idea. I'm going to ruin my life for a while. Woo! Check that box. No, it's just life happens. So I think just talking to people about, how things really are, I think helps quite a bit, and in a non-wooden way, I guess. So
we also recognize that Doug, to your point earlier, and OG, you and I get coaching from Strategic Coach, and you told me this about Strategic Coach. Sometimes you show up and the message just doesn't resonate, but 6 months later it does. They can do pretty much the same thing, and you come in, you're like, this is exactly what I need to hear, and this is exactly the messenger. And that's why we have a lot of these amazing guests on the show. I'm thinking people like Kimberly Hamilton that were just on, who at my request, I actually had somebody write in saying, this woman only bought one house and you had her on. I didn't have her on because she bought one house. I had her on because she's one of the top people at a financial wellness organization called Rocket Money. And she agreed to share how nerve-wracked she was when she bought her first house and to use her expertise that way. So we curate these people for these stories. And our goal, OG, is to have people, if we don't hit you, maybe one of these people will hit you the right way and you'll be able to get the right person. But one guest over the years, and we've had nearly everybody we could ever want on the show. We've had just amazing people on the show. But one guest was different than all the others. Susie Orman. When Susie Orman's people wrote to us and said, hey, we got a guest who would like to be on your show. Her name's Susie Orman. I'm like, oh my God. Susie Orman. I think I answered 3 seconds later. Yes. I didn't care what she was talking about. It was Susie Orman. And generally, I prepare a ton for our interviews because I want to make sure that people get stuff out of it. Cheryl, my spouse, will tell you I didn't prepare at all for Susie Orman. My spouse was like, what are you doing? Why aren't you prepared for her? I said, do you know Susie Orman? Because Susie Orman, OG, is going to say whatever Susie Orman wants to say. If you know anything about Susie Orman, she's going to say her stuff. My main goal with Susie Orman was to see her strut. I wanted to see those peacock feathers come out, right? I wanted to see those. Do you know who I am? I'm Susie Orman. And so Susie came on, and she was very charming. But halfway through the interview, I poked her a little bit. I prodded a little bit. And then she started talking about her private island. And the peacock feathers came out. And I'm like, this is fantastic. And we had a great time together. She was way more charming than I thought she was going to be. She made me blush one time. She's like, look at how your face is turning all red. That's so cute. And it was very funny. And then I hang up and I'm all excited because we just had Susie Orman. Not knowing that Susie is on one of these tours where she's going from interview to interview to interview to interview.
A junket.
Right after me, she went and talked to Paula Pant on Afford Anything. And if you guys haven't heard Susie Orman's interview with Paula Pant, that went in an entirely different direction. Susie burned the fire movement, talked about how stupid it was, just said all this incendiary stuff. And so here I am all excited. 2 hours later, I call Paula and I'm like, hey, guess who was on my show? She goes, okay, when you get done, I got to tell you who I just had. What happened on mine?
You know why that unfolded the way it did? Paula prepared and you didn't.
That might be true. I don't know. We still got great audio. I thought it was great. All right. We have a note here before we talk about the future of the show. And then we have another great call in. Grace wrote to us and Grace said something fantastic. Grace said first, all Stacking Benjamins has helped me with my life is pondering how to get neighbor Doug a shirt so he stops complaining. And then she actually then wrote a great note. She said, seriously, though, I love the banner, the easy to understand discussions, just talking about finance openly with no shame. I've also loved hearing from experts in the short interviews, short enough to pique my interest so I can do some more research, but not too long if it doesn't interest me. The weekly competition is great. The trivia questions keep me engaged. All around great show. Grace, thank you so much for writing that. And thanks for being a stacker with us. We've got a call in right now, though, that I'd like to get to from our friend Lambo. Hey, Lambo.
Hey, Joe and OG and neighbor Doug. I've been listening to the Supreme Stackers for years. As I was ramping into the possibilities of early retirement, the caliber of your guests and your advice was thought-provoking and insightful. I frequently recalled the phrase that some people don't know what they don't know. The deadpan confident comments from OG that you often fleshed out captured my ear and some of my brains. One of the biggest recurring themes was writing down a financial policy and sticking with that strategy and policy. As we witnessed the market behavior throughout the COVID chaos, having just retired in August 19, sticking to our investment policy and actively simplifying 132 different holdings to a handful was an actionable step to simplify our finances and have clarity on our allocation and diversification. This positioned us for full participation in the rapid recovery. On top of that, it was great to share a beverage with you guys in real life at FinCon 21 in Austin. Anywho, those early shows helped build my education in the space and gave me confidence to step through the exit when that opportunity appeared. The Stack book came out, and it was a joy to consume, and later even interview Joe during the book tour in Texas on the Filater podcast. Yellow is one of my favorite colors, and that book is an easy-to-find reference on my desk. Thanks for bringing high-caliber content 1,500 times with a little humor or a lot of humor and hurting the cats that help us stack the bins from HQ in Mom's basement. And, Joe, can you get cracking on the next book? And we need a lot more of Emily's cartoons and captions. I think you call them infographics.
That terrified me.
Why is that? I love Lambo.
Because that shows me that people are listening to like what we're saying.
I know.
What? I should be thinking about what's coming out of my mouth?
130 what positions, Lambo? That's incredible.
Wow.
And the fact that Lambo is also somebody that went out and started a podcast after listening to us. And I'm so happy that to point people there, the Five Lighter podcast. He hung out with us at Houston on the book tour. And OG, we got to have a beer with Lambo in Austin. Lambo, you talked about investment policy statement. I'm with you. I think the one thing that we wanted to do when we created the show was show people some of the stuff that financial professionals think about that we don't see much and we still don't hear much about. You don't hear enough about the efficient frontier, which Paul Merriman talks around but doesn't talk directly at. And over the next 1,500 episodes, I'd love for us to talk more about that, OG. And then also, I think this idea of investment policy statement has been something that I've heard so many stackers talk about that they hadn't heard before. And yet I don't know a CFP who does not use an investment policy statement. I'm sure they're out there, but any great certified financial planner is going to use this. And it's because it's a much more effective way to invest. And two other things, the timeline of your goals that we heard earlier about from Christine and the weekly money meetings, I think are also important things. So there's some of these concepts, OG, that we're trying to bring to the table that investment policy statement, though, to Lambo's point, is a huge one.
It's probably the single most important thing that you can do from an investment standpoint because you create it when there's no stress or pressure around you, right? When you're just sitting there and drawing it up and sketching it out and there's nothing extemporaneous going on to pressure your decision. And so you create this thing that says, here's the investments, or here's the return I need to reach my goals. Here's the types of investments that have a high likelihood of helping me reach that return that therefore will reach my goals. And then here's how I'm going to make decisions around changing my investments as time goes on. And no one ever says when they're writing it down, no one ever says, I'm going to wait until the market goes down 20%, then I'm going to freak out and move it all to cash. Like it's like, that's not what gets written down. You say, well, I'm going to rebalance, I'm going to make good decisions, all that sort of stuff. And so it gives you the opportunity to think about this. And then when the world does take a crap from an investment standpoint, you can go, hold on a second. I thought about this when there wasn't any stress. I'm going to do what my plan says and see what happens. And of course, what always happens is if you follow your plan, you have good outcomes. So I'm surprised that more people don't do that.
Yeah.
Maybe in the book, in the 2.0 book, we'll work through investment policy statements.
I feel like I remember after Cheryl and I got married, it's like grandparents going, so when are you going to have kids? And then you have kids like, when do you get more kids?
To be fair, honestly, you're talking about like kind of the next stuff coming. I've been waiting to kind of dip my toe into this pretty easy thing about writing a book, but I didn't want to overshadow you. So I thought it would be very embarrassing for you if I sold more books or something, which will happen, I'm sure. And I didn't want you to get super frustrated about it. And I'd like bang it out right on the heels of yours.
Are you saying it out loud then?
So
you gonna say it out loud?
I'm just like that. I'm going to sell more books. And it's pretty clear that that's what happened.
How convenient that he's announcing this right after Chat GPT 3 comes out.
4, buddy.
4.
GPT 4. Way more human-like.
Yeah.
Write me a chapter that's just like Joe's chapter. That's what I'm going to write.
But better.
Cute illustrations.
Yes. With that little, what's that new one called? It's like Sona or something, Soma, where it creates the ad. Have you seen that yet with ChatGPT?
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh.
I think it's Soma.
Soma. Yeah. It takes like literally you can write up what you want the camera to do and it will literally create an ad of like you're like watching a video. It creates video in
about the guy throwing the football through the tire swing.
Yeah, you can do whatever. Yeah. It's pretty neat. But anyways, so yeah, maybe we'll have a section about investment policy statements in the book version of the book that sells more than Joe's.
You heard it here first. Oh, geez, got a book on the way. I hadn't heard it until this. I wouldn't
say it's on the way, but
so would you say September,
October
release, maybe?
We'll see. I'll I'll see what my book deal people say, which I should. Joe, can I get a copy of your book deal, people? See, I need to email them something. I have an idea.
The future, by the way, while you're talking about the future, we do have a few things. We have some guides that are going to hit the market this fall. We have a tax planning guide that we'll be helping people with, a guide to help you with HR decisions. And then we love the 201, but sometimes there's a concept we talk about over and over and over. We are in the middle of making individual one-page help sheets on those. We have one for the tax triangle now. We have one about net unrealized appreciation now. We're going to be making a series of those. So people wondering what's next for us. More shows, more lives on Instagram, more of our shows recorded live on YouTube. That'll be, I think, an increasing thing. But
I thought you said more lies on Instagram.
More lies on Instagram. We're going to lie on YouTube. We're going to lie on Instagram. We'll lie on the podcast. Yeah, it's
Chat
great.
GPT, make me skinnier for Instagram.
Thank you so many people for sending these in. I should have known that we didn't have time for everybody's, but I got time for one more. Let's hear from Stacker Billy, who I met out in San Francisco.
Hey, Joe, NOG, and Doug. This is Billy from San Francisco. I don't know if you remember me, but I joined you on your Stack Book Tour in San Francisco. I just want to say thank you very much for doing what you guys do. Without your podcast, I would not have been able to get out of my own head and get rid of my debt and start budgeting. I just want to give a shout out to you guys and for everything that you do. And I am in a much, much better place financially now than I was, I don't know, when I first started listening to you guys like 4 years ago. I'm consumer debt free, other than my car and my home loan. Other than that, we're saving for my wedding, which is coming up at the end of June. And it's been great. Thank you very much. You guys, congratulations on your 1500 episode. Thanks.
Billy, great to hear your voice again, man. And I don't think you were out of credit card debt when we talked in San Francisco, but I know you were doing a heck of a job about that. And it's exciting to see that this OG is not about a destination. It's about enjoying the journey. And when I met Billy, he was not even as well off as he is now. And I remember Billy seemed to be in a really good place then. I think you got to remember that you got to be happy with today.
There's no end game in financial planning. I don't think, in your journey toward it. It's like when people say things, and this kind of all, we were talking about the investment policy statement, but it goes to this as well. Say, well, when I get to retirement, I just had a friend ask me this the other day. When I get to retirement, like, how do I know when I should be really super conservative with my money? And I'm like, have you not listened to anything that we've said? Like, start at episode 1 again.
Why are you such an idiot?
Redo it. But like, as you think about the path that you're on or the journey that you're on, A, you're not going to fix everything in one day. B, you're not going to be completely done in one day. And when you do think you're done, there's always more that you can do, or there's always, a different, dynamic of people that you can support, or, things that are important to you, or whatever the case may be. And so when you get to like, oh my gosh, I'm finally done. I've got my emergency fund and my debt paid off. It's like, well, that's great, but can you also do this? Like, you should celebrate that. And it's not like you don't, don't want to appreciate that. George Leonard's got a great book called Mastery, and all he talks about is appreciating the idea of being in the plateau. Like, the whole idea of growth happens in really short periods of time, and then you just hang out at the same level forever, and then all of a sudden another spike of growth happens, and we're trying to like get all of our energy and excitement out of the one little teeny tiny bit. And it's like, we should have much more joy around, the process. So,
well, Stackers, I think that's a great place to end. Thank you for helping us enjoy our journey as a podcast. We hope that we can continue to help you enjoy your journey along the way, make it fun and exciting and profitable as you make your way towards stacking more Benjamins. So, gentlemen, Doug, OG, thanks for being my partners here on the show. This has been, well, it's been okay.
It's been moderately tolerable.
It's been kind of,
I can't think of a more,
As the kids would say, meh.
Yeah. Can't think of a more meh way to spend the last 13 years.
But on to 1500, back to more, greater, funner, more excellent, more gooder. Doug, why don't you wrap this thing up for us? What should be on our to-do list today?
Well, Joe, here's what's on our to-do list. First, take some advice from us. Looking for your thing? Serve your audience. Forget about all of the little things and serve the people you serve. Second, get started. You can't accomplish your goals if you don't get rolling. Seriously, pause this right now and just go. Well, what's the biggest to-do? I got to print I Love Doug t-shirts in a lot more languages. I'm going to be the Taylor Swift of personal finance across the globe. This show is the property of SB Podcasts, LLC, copyright 2024, and is created by Joe Saul-Sehy. Our producer is Karen Repine. Karen and Joe get help from a few of our neighborhood friends. You'll find out about our awesome team at stackingbenjamins.com, along with the show notes and how you can find us on YouTube and all the usual social media spots. Come say hello. Oh yeah, and before I go, not only should you not take advice from these nerds, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamin Show.
Didn't expect to hear my voice, did you? Welcome back to the after show. For those of you new to Stacking Benjamins, this is the thing we used to do before Apple decided we didn't need to.
Before our overlords.
Going old school on your asses. Yes.
This is the part of the show that people don't talk about. What happens in the after show stays in the after show. And
it's so comfy here. I feel so at ease here in the after show.
We did a lot of them. In our day. We did a bunch of them.
So good.
We actually did one after show one time. I don't know if you guys remember, that involved chorizo sausage, and we had to take it down.
I do not remember which of us had the unfortunate interaction with chorizo.
I love chorizo. So what are you talking about?
I'm not even going to tell you guys what it was about, but we had to take it down. So
was it an explosive session?
It was not good. It was not great, but we do have something great. OG, you saw some movies, or what are we talking about here?
No, I'm looking at the May-June calendar. I'm busy right now, so I don't have a lot of movie time. I can't just take off on a Tuesday at noon, and go see the movies.
Is he looking at me?
So
I feel like I'm being attacked.
Have you guys seen the preview for this yet?
First time you take off, you gotta push the I believe button.
I fell in love with aviation at 4 years old. My dad took me to an air show, and I got to watch the Blue Angels fly for the very first time.
This year, we're bringing 5 new people into this team. Something I never thought was actually gonna happen.
It's 1 in a million.
We only have 3 months to get to a point where we can take it on the road.
It can be frustrating at times. The challenge is to get the newbies up to speed, and that can be scary. When you're flying 12 inches apart, everybody's lives are in each other's hands.
It's an eye-opener for how inherently dangerous this job is.
Ready, roll, hat.
The Blue Angels.
Doug's snoring. I'm on the opposite end. I want to watch that. That sounds awesome.
This is Av Geek movie.
I'm not an Av Geek, and I think that sounds cool. The precision these guys got to work with.
J.J. Abrams is the producer in this, and
so there'll be a lot of explosions.
Is it a documentary?
I hope not. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's a documentary. It's IMAX. It's coming to IMAX. It says, which IMAX, Blue Angels, like all the things,
all
right?
the feels.
It's going to be lots of sensory overload. which
Can you
is going
see
to be
Doug
kind of
OG
cool.
in the third row crying like he's watching Steel Magnolias?
Yeah, it's fried green tomatoes
With his
all
pants
over again.
down.
Yeah, that would be.
I love you so much.
Yeah. You don't want to see this? All right.
Why did
All
this
right.
take
Okay.
so
Okay.
long?
All right. Hey, maybe that's not for you.
I just said I want to see it. I want to
Yeah,
see it.
no,
I think
Joe's
that looks
in.
great.
And I'm mostly giving you crap, but I think I want to see it
Is
too.
it
damn
IMAX
it.
only though? Because I don't know if you guys know this. We're in Texarkana. And that might be a little difficult for me to get to. I could have my buddy Rick put his screen really big in his backyard.
Just
if we
sit
could do
real
it that way.
close to the
Sit close to your
72-inch.
27-inch Sony Bravia tube
Yeah.
television.
All right. All right. All right. If you don't want to see that movie, which Doug, okay,
I
maybe you'll see
kinda
it, maybe you
do.
won't. You absolutely have to go see this one. This comes out in June. Top 2 actors of all time. Tell me this is not on your summer watch
Lee
list.
Marvin?
In 5, 4, 3. Come on, Mike, slow down. We are late. My stomach, Mike. I need a ginger ale. Get a ginger ale and nothing else. Are those dogs fresh? Put them in yesterday. Give me one. Put some relish on that. Open the register. Stay right there. Is that Skittles on the counter, Marcus? This ain't mine, Mike. Yes, it is. Marcus, get in the car. He has a gun to my head. Want to deal with him? You want to deal with me? Sorry, sir, but I gotta go. Call 911. Aren't you the police? Hey,
Who
Rich,
edited this?
you ate my snacks? No, sir. You ate my snacks, didn't you? You need to get a job. I'm a U.S. Marine, sir. Well, then you need to deploy.
Dad, look.
We now have evidence that the late Captain.
So do we know what this is yet?
No
have
clue, but
no
I like
idea.
Skittles on the counter. That's a great
Bad
line.
Boys 3. Ride or Die with
Oh,
Will Smith
Theater
and Martin Lawrence.
at its finest.
I thought that was going to be like Wild Hogs. Not nearly
No.
the depth of Wild Hogs.
There
probably.
are a few explosions in this trailer, as you might surmise.
So
Those films were so damn funny.
Oh, they're so great.
I haven't seen a single one. The movie I thought I was
Stop
hoping.
it. Hold on. No, we're not blowing past this. You've never seen a Bad Boys movie?
No.
What country are you from?
Do you
I-
think
This
when
is
you look at Doug, do you
anti-American.
think Bad Boys?
I think it's anti-American to not to.
Yes.
I
Are you
appreciate
communist, Doug?
literature.
Are you communist?
As a matter of fact, we must control the means of production.
It's like I'm late for a meeting.
So okay, fine.
No,
I'm
never
over 2
have.
for Doug. Sorry that there's not a.
I'm in on both of them
All right, thank you very much. Enjoy your sitting at home alone time, Doug. While me and Joe go to the movies.
together,
Promises.
crying like Steel Magnolias.
Where the popcorn bucket sits in the empty seat between you, and then your hands just gently graze each other's as you're
Accidentally
reaching
touch as
Yeah.
we
in.
just
Maybe you
sharing the
linger a
large.
little too long over the popcorn
I knew
bucket.
this was a bad idea.
You brought this shit on yourself, man. No, the one I was hoping you were going to play, which I saw, I've seen quite a bit of commercials for recently, is the new Guy Ritchie movie that's set in World War II.
Fabulous.
Fabulous,
first-
like you've seen it?
The previews look amazing.
Yeah. What is it? The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare? Something like that.
I think it's Guy Ritchie and Jerry Bruckheimer together.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
I'm not kidding.
Over the top.
How many explosions
Yes.
and cliches can we put in a movie at the same time?
Like
whole
Inglorious
planet's gonna
Bastards, like that kind of movie.
It is. Yeah,
Oh, it is.
That's exactly right. I think
Yeah.
it's going to be like Inglorious Bastards, but
Yeah.
Guy Ritchie style.
And while we're at it, I'm on episode 2 of The Gentleman. And for anybody that followed
That's
us
all?
back in the day, we used to talk about Peaky Blinders. This is like Peaky Blinders of today. I feel like this is, yeah. You know why that's all?
I just
Doug?
finished it.
I'll tell you why that's all. Number 1, some of us have lives, but number 2 is because of the fact that
Seemed unnecessary.
episode 1 is so intense. Cheryl was like, yeah, I need a minute after the first episode. Like what the brother does in episode 1, and I won't give it away, but he does something a little bad. Cheryl's like, that was so intense. And then
you just wait.
episode 2 is so funny. Now she's excited to see episode 3 because the humor's finally coming out.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, episode 3 involves a chicken suit. Have you seen that
Episode
yet?
1 has the chicken suit.
Really?
End of episode 1 is the chicken suit. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, they did pack a lot into one then.
I know. And so
Wow.
she's like, nope, I'm done. I mean, that's why she didn't like the bear, was because she's like, it's too intense. It is.
Yeah,
too
I
intense.
talked to somebody about the bear who worked in that industry for a long time, and they're like, I got out for a reason. That's too real. I can't
And
go
that's
back
it.
into that. Yeah. And I'm out. But not many of us have worked in the industry that the gentleman is set in.
No. might not be in that industry.
So good though. Worth diving into 8 episodes, maybe. Worth it.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys episode 3000 for the next after show.
What?
Joe will be 84.
All right. And as we finish up episode 1499, time to head out to the back porch. But wait, you don't do back porch. Oh, you know what we're going to do? No. Cut that, Steve. We're going to do an after show.
Yes.
Yes.